future Jackson popping in from somewhere with no microphone and a bad cold to say that I wouldn't have actually been able to make this project without a bunch of community support. So thank you very much to everyone on the Sandaria Discord server, and to Sandaria themselves for sending me a very nice email the day after the competition doodah. Even though I didn't win, I still had a bunch of fun. Also, I forgot to introduce myself again. My name is Jackson MTT Kenny, and welcome to Bold and Bright.
Alright then, lads, ladies, and those of us who know better. You might remember a few episodes ago when I was talking about my speech impediment and upcoming projects that I was going to do a cover of I'm Not Sorry for Loving You from Epic the Musical and set it to an animatic of Good Omens. Well, I did that. My original plan was not even for an animatic. My plan was to sing the cover and then do a couple little illustrations and just have those in the background while the music was on. And then I got over ambitious and got a little bit creatively hyped, so I wound up doing... Well, the original plan was 5 frames. I wound up doing 27, and that is not counting the ones that had to be scrapped. So really, I drew like 30-odd frames in full color, traditionally, but like watercolor and pen. So I thought I'd just walk you through some of the creative process and behind the scenes for that, because I like hearing other people talk about their behind the scenes stuff, and I'm very self-indulgent on this podcast. So first of all, I got the idea for this animatic when I was just faffing around doodling one evening, and I thought, okay, yeah, I've got some Good Omens brain rot. The song I'm listening to right now is really hitting me as sort of a Crowley song. And then I didn't think that much more about it until I heard the announcement from Sandaria. I'm going to probably include a link to her YouTube channel. She does amazing theory work on Good Omens, and I think she's branching out into some other stuff, which I will be listening to as well. But she announced on her Discord server that she was going to do a just talent exhibition, and that people could submit stuff by February. Like, this was back in December, so I thought, okay, yeah, cute little animatic thing, I can get that done in 2 months. I did get it done in 2 months. Yeah, I'm never attempting that again. It is very, very likely that now that I have dipped my toe into the world of animatics, into the world of making animatics, that I will be making more. Covers are definitely something I want to do more of in the future, but maybe not quite at this speed and with this level of ambition. I believe in learning on the job. So I had to pick up a lot of little quick fixes and storyboarding things and all the rest of it. I've got my notes here, but fun fact, this is actually the second time I'm recording this. My audio corrupted for the last one, but I have actually doodled all over my notes. So before I jump into what my part of the process was, I have to say a big thank you to the people on the Sandaria Discord server who, A, were super supportive and sent me help with some things, and also pointed me in the direction of the Good Omens reference library. I would not have been able to get some of the backgrounds and angles that I had to reference for this without that. I am not dedicated enough to stand beside my TV for like hours and hours of Good Omens and take pictures of the deliberate moments I need. My brain was not built for that. That's why I'm artist, not a photographer. And I feel like one of the reasons that I even started this crazy ambitious project in the first place was dipping into the stuff that I had going on IRL. I had dropped out of college in October, so by December, it was still stinging a little bit. So I really felt like I needed something to push me out of my creative comfort zone because I was feeling a teensy-weensy bit insecure. And I mean, push myself out of my comfort zone, I certainly did. I've got the picture of the frames here beside me. Oh my god, there's pen, there's watercolor, there's gouache, there's acrylic, there's highlighters, there's gel pen, there's even oil pastel in one frame. And look, I'm really proud of this. I think I might have been insane for attempting a sequence that was like nearly entirely hands and props, and the emphasis I put on backgrounds might have broken my head a little bit. There were definitely some frames that I struggled on for literally weeks before I could just finally finish the damn things and be happy with them. There are still some frames there that are in my mental box of shame, but I'm not going to point out which ones those are because I'm trying to be kinder to myself. As for the ones that I really love, I wanted the whole thing of this to be contrast because, look, admittedly, if you haven't seen Good Omens or heard me talking about Good Omens before, a lot of this isn't going to make sense, so bear with me. But Aziraphale and Crowley's whole deal is two sides of the same coin, and they contrast each other. I mean, even visually, I had so much fun playing around with the light and the dark, and leaving space on either side of them when they were alone to show where the other one should be. I think that's most noticeable in the second and third frames, and the last 3 frames because, well, it's really bloody obvious that there are, that if we're sitting at a table, there's meant to be 2 of them. The referencing, I think, took the longest because I'm not that used to drawing from life. I try to be, but I'm not that great at sticking to it. So trying to portray something basically one for one, that is not something I do very often, and it was a unique challenge, shall we say. My Pinterest board and my search history got really weird. And even though this was really outside my comfort zone, I don't draw men a whole lot. I've gotten a lot better at drawing male or male presenting people recently, but for the most, look, I got into drawing because I wanted to be a costume designer for the Barbie films, so first and foremost, I learned how to draw women and then draw women in pretty outfits, so loads of backgrounds and fellas. That's fellas in big quotation marks considering that one of them's agender and the other one's gender fluid, but you know what I mean. And as for frames that I'm most proud of, I do love the sequence with the hands because, okay, maybe excluding the one from the church because I think I went a little bit heavy-handed on the lighting, but the three there with the flask on the bus and at the, makeshift bookshop cotillion ball, I like how I worked with the colors there. It kind of wound up being like a primary color palette, and that's cute. It also sums up some of the biggest moments in their whole relationship. Again, thank you to the Discord server because I was just randomly popping in at moments like, hi, look at this doodle I did. And then, by the way, can someone help me make an itemized list of every time these two held hands in the entire series? That was fun. And I talked about the music more in the last episode, so I won't harp on that for too long. Just know that it took a lot of takes because I am not professionally trained for this. And even though I was happy with the art, it was really the cover that had me, like, literally hiding my face in a pillow while my bit was being shown. Because this was a talent exhibition, it was live streamed for a couple of hours, and I was actually asleep when my bit got unveiled. It's fine, the live stream stayed up, go watch it, but I watched it the next morning. I didn't wind up winning, but that's fine, I'm just glad I got to show this off. If I had to pick an absolute favorite frame, I think it might just be the one with Angel Crowley floating around in her nebula. Ironically, that's the one I had to put the least amount of work into, but isn't that just the way? Anyway, time for me to complain about backgrounds and talk about nerdy details. Backgrounds are so hard. Oh my god. I hate using a ruler. I don't like symmetry. So let me just zoom in on the ones that I've got here. The bookshop was a nightmare because I had to draw it from a bunch of different angles. So the two frames there of Aziraphale and Crowley in the street and in the bandstand, those were outside my comfort zone. Just generally background-wise with the one in the street, that was hard, but I don't use pastels, especially not light pink and light blue, so the one at the bandstand was weird. So let me just tally this up. I think I've got like 3, 4, 5, how many different perspectives of the bookshop. I did simplify some of them down for the really dramatic moments, but apart from that, I had to draw bookshelves and like windows. The perspective on these is ridiculous. I haven't got spatial awareness. I'm very dyspraxic. I like organic shapes. I like drawing skies and trees and cute stuff like that. But no. Had to draw Soho through a window. Props. Ugh. But I did mention that there would be some nerdy details. So I already mentioned that I left gaps on either side to, you know, represent their whole, balancing each other out dynamic. But also, Crowley's got black nail polish. There's some little love hearts that show up every now and then. Crowley's hair ribbon in the Shakespeare scene is meant to look like his tattoo. There's a nightingale in Berkeley Square. A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square has unironically wound up being one of my favorite songs. I also wrote my dad into really liking it as well. Specifically the Michael Bublé cover, that's the best version of it, and I'm not sure if that's a hot take considering how many very talented people have covered that, but shh, Michael Bublé one's a bit jazzier, it's fun. And finally, Aziraphale's features get a little bit more inhuman towards the end to represent the fact that he did take up the head archangel thing. Gabriel in season 1, when he was head archangel, he had the purple contacts in, which were really spooky, I like those, but I think you can really see the difference in it, like, compared to just the first frame that Aziraphale's in compared to, yeah, the one right after the kiss. Thank you very much to the costume designer, I'll put their name up now, but thank you so much for putting blue into his color palette, otherwise I would have been drawing a beige blob. And just a last note before I go about the technical side of things, this is going to be the artisty jargony parts of this, so I can only apologize. So just making a single frame was I had to cut the paper to the specific size. I wound up tracing a page for the whole part, and since I hate measuring and cutting out, that might have been the most annoying thing, having to cut out pages like 30 times over. And then I would draw thumbnails on little pieces of scrap paper that I have lying around. So thumbnails, and I'd sketch it out and make sure I have the reference beside me to try to get it as spot on as I can. Then there'd be line art, then there'd be flat colors, then there'd be, what do you call it, like maybe secondary colors? Not quite shading, but adding a little bit of pizzazz. Then there'd be shading. Then there'd be highlights and outlines and fixing up random wee details. I had to learn how to use gouache for this thing. Gouache might just be my new frenemy because it helped out covering up some of the watercolor mistakes, but oh my god, if I tried to touch up Crowley's hair with it, the red gouache got everywhere and made my studio look like a crime scene. Towards the end, I did get burnt out, but I blame that more on real life stuff that I had going on, more than the actual art itself. I do love illustration, I love good omens, but I think there's a quote from like Kiki's Delivery Service where it's a lot more fun when you don't have to do it for a living. Now, I didn't get paid for any of this. I am purely an unpaid tortured artist, but it's different knowing that you have a deadline and that you've got people wanting to see this compared to you've got a silly little idea in your head. Lavender Town as well said something very good in one of her videos about how to actually flesh out a plot idea where everything's perfect in your head. If you're daydreaming about it and having fun with it, then yeah, of course that'll work out. And then you actually draw it out and you realize that the way you've got it framed there isn't room in the end for that frame of Crowley waiting at the Bentley. I tried to include the Bentley, but she just kept clashing with every background I did, so I had to scrap her. Sorry. You physically can't fit all of your ideas into something, and burnout is an absolute beast to get over. After I officially finished this, I had to take a couple week break from illustration. I'm back to illustration now because it's definitely my passion, but for a while there it was exclusively doodles and abstract drawings because my brain just could not get itself in the mode to like draw hands. Still getting used to that. At the exact same time I catch a really nasty cold, so that's been fun. In the end, I am glad I did this. It did push me out of my creative comfort zone. I feel a little bit more, dare I say, accomplished? I can finally say that after years and years of having make an animatic on my bucket list, I actually did it. And of course, after swearing off working on Good Omens projects for a wee minute just because, well, this one was a bit full on, I then remembered that I had signed up for the every frame counts ineffable frame thing, so right after I finish recording this, I'm gonna have to go work on my frame because I completely forgot about it, and then I thought I had more time than I did because I forgot that February this year only has 29 days. Oops. I don't think there's anything else I really need to say other than that. Ooh, one last little sad detail besides the nightingale. In the shot of Crowley in his flat, you can see a wine bottle and 2 glasses because he thought someone else was coming home with him. Sorry, Crowley. Look, admittedly out of the pair of them, he is my favorite, but it's a very, very tight thing. He's a disaster. I can't help myself. But yeah, I think this is going to be the last video that I'm doing on Good Omens just for a wee while, because yeah, a lot of time and effort went into this animatic. As of the time of this releasing, I think the animatic itself will have been out for a week. Please give it some love because that was 2 months of nearly non-stop work on my part. Yay, I learned things and accomplished things, but yeah, sorry. Michael Sheen's face is a nightmare to draw. I don't know why it's so hard to stylize and flippin'. And there is a very, very fine line between drawing David Tennant as, you know, the thin dark duke and drawing him as a literal beanpole with a very spiky head. Learning on the job, whoa. Oh feck, I nearly forgot I have to do an outro. Tumblr blog, go follow it. It's at Blue Bold and Bright. And I don't know, like and subscribe to this thing if you want more stuff like this on your algorithm, because YouTube's a nightmare. And also because the validation will make me feel nice. New episodes of this come out every other Friday. I know the schedule got banjaxed a couple weeks ago when I took a week off, specifically because I was down to the wire to edit that animatic. That's fine. Next episode is going to be about asexuality. I don't know, like the things that you like, embrace your differences, whatever. My name is Jackson MTT Kenny, and this is Being Bold and Bright. Did I remember to introduce myself at the beginning of this? I don't think I did. My name is Jackson MTT Kenny, and this is Being Bold and Bright.